Have you ever been in this situation where your girl is making these snippy comments at you and you don't really know what's going on? Or maybe you get into an argument and it just keeps escalating even though you're trying to de-escalate the situation. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the proper way to actually argue with a woman so that you not necessarily win, but you both come out on top and you actually have greater connection and not really pushing each other away. Hi, my name is Ed Baxter from Genuine Attraction, where we teach men how to get out of their head and into her heart so he can find and attract or even re-attract his perfect partner. So if you like what you're watching, consider subscribing. And hey, at any point during the show, check out the links in the description below for any kind of show notes. So let's get to it. The main reason that people argue is unmet expectations and not feeling heard and understood. And so if she feels like you aren't meeting her expectations of whatever those are, and she is not feeling heard and understood in relation to those expectations, this is why she gets upset. And men can't always understand this because we're really good at compartmentalization, right? So in other words, we'll go to work and we'll have problems at work, but when we come home, we don't have those problems anymore. We put them aside. We put them at work. But for her, she can't get past that. So until she feels heard and understood, she's going to always feel this distance with you. She's not going to be able to connect with you and have those intimate moments. And so it creates a really good opportunity for you as a man to really take charge and lead unraveling what's going on with her. Okay, and so this video, we're going to talk a lot about how to do this and the steps and techniques necessary for you to become an argument ninja and be able to come out of this without making it into a bigger thing and escalating it. One of the main symptoms of her not feeling heard and understood outside of you just arguing right now is that at other times during the day, she'll get snippy at you or she'll start to nag you about things. Now, when she gets this way, she gets a little bit bitchy with you, that's because she hasn't felt heard and understood at some point in the relationship. It's some area in the relationship that needs to get resolved. And she's getting snippy with you because she doesn't feel like she can talk to you. She feels like if she is going to talk to you, she's not going to feel heard and understood, and you're going to get into an argument. So what's the point of even bringing it up? Because in her mind, she's already done this many times. So if you're having this kind of woman who's snippy at you, realize that this is where you can really turn things around by really learning how to argue properly. And when you get into these arguments, it escalates, right? Like you'll start to talk about this problem that she has. And when she doesn't feel heard and understood in the argument, she'll escalate it and it'll get worse and worse and worse. And then you both get frustrated and you walk away and you move apart and you move away from each other. And then you'll notice that she'll go silent on you, right? And she won't want to talk to you. And this is more of just pushing each other away. Now, if you learn how to argue properly with her, this will actually give you the reverse effect and you'll actually come together more and you'll have a lot more intimacy and you'll feel a lot more free and you'll have a lot more sexy times. And realize that when you're having an argument with her, when she talks about other topics unrelated to the argument, you're like, why is she bringing everything up? Realize that what she's doing is she's bringing up other scenarios that make her feel the same way that she's feeling right now. So if she's having a hard time with you, like helping out around the house and she's getting angry about that, and then she gets mad about taking out the trash, and then she brings up this other thing where she was frustrated with you and this other thing where she's frustrated with you, just realize that she's bringing all this to the table, all the things that she's not feeling heard and understood with. And so if you haven't been talking to her or opening her up properly, all these things are going to come out during an argument. And as you work through these things, you'll notice that less and less of these things come up. Now, some things may be innate to her. Some things may be just like stuff she brings in the relationship from her past. And that's not really the topic of this discussion. What we're going to talk about here is exactly how to de-escalate these things and bring you closer to intimacy so you can have a conversation that doesn't blow up and that you have to walk away. When you are arguing with her, just realize that when you're angry, you never feel more right than when you're angry. And yes, the anger might power you through and you might feel good because you're getting all this shit off your chest. But when you do that, you actually damage the relationship. You damage whatever you've got going on with her. So when you're getting angry, just realize that you're actually losing. You're not demonstrating more maturity and more personal self-control. You have to be able to exercise a lot of emotional self-control in these scenarios. Again, she knows all the buttons to push on you, but you have to be stronger than that. You can't let her rock your boat. You know, it's like being a boat on the ocean and she's the hurricane. If you let her capsize you, you've already lost. And if you've lost, you can't lead the relationship to where it needs to go. You can't lead each other where you need to go. She's looking for you to lead and be strong and be the rock. And if you can't be the rock, you lose. And if you lose, she loses respect for you, and you're not going to be able to calm her down. Now, with that being said, you are not responsible for her emotions, and you are not responsible for her happiness. So if you think that her being upset at you is diminishing you and making her unhappy, just realize that that's not you, okay? You got to be the one to say, I only make myself happy, and she's responsible for making herself happy. Now, with that being said, if she's angry at you because you did something, you have to own that part of it that you are responsible for. So you have to come to this with humility. Now, I will say the healthy boundary is not to go and say, when you calm down, we can now have a conversation about it. That's not what you want to do, right? That's berating her, and that's not accepting of her and her emotions and where she's at. We're going to talk about how to do that in a little bit, but just remember that the only time you should walk away and say something like that is if she's berating you and not being nice and just trying to cut you down and trying to shame you or guilt you or any of those negative things that some people do to try to manipulate a situation in order to win. Now, if she is doing that, you just simply state, you're being mean and you're being disrespectful, and I am not your enemy, and you will not talk to me this way, and I'm going to leave. I'm going to eject from this situation, and when you decide to be calm and clear and nice to me, then I will come back. Now, in that scenario, yes, you need to remove yourself from the situation because you don't want to escalate hurtful behavior. And you got to be the one to be the one to enforce that kind of loving energy. Now, that's kind of a tough love thing, and you have to enforce that boundary. But if she's just upset and she's not actually being mean to you, she's just I can't do this, and I'm just so angry, then just allow her to have that anger. That's fine. You're not responsible for that anger. She's responsible for the way she's feeling, but you can help her facilitate how the emotions are going through. And that's really what your job is here, is to help facilitate her emotional venting and her emotional think. Now, for instance, women don't figure out their problems through your solutions. So if you're giving solutions to her, you're going to reinforce the more of the he's not hearing me and I'm not feeling heard and understood. Now, when you want her to feel heard and understood in a way that says, I feel where you're coming from and I understand you're upset and I understand that you need to tell me about this. And that's all you're going to do. You're going to reserve judgment. You're going to reserve offering any kind of solutions. Your job here is just to be an emotional facilitator and to gather information. That's it. If you're doing anything else, if you're trying to offer advice or offer solutions, you're going to fail. You're going to fuck it up. And she's going to get angry because she's like, he's not hearing what I have to say and I don't feel heard and understood. And now I got to do this and I have to escalate because he's not listening to me. That's how escalation happens. Setting the container for the engagement. And this is very important for the feminines. You must set the container. When you set this, you're pretty much, like setting the rules of engagement. And now she can sit back and be like, okay, well, this is how we're going to have this discussion in this context. And then she can let it out. She can let out everything that's going on. And so for you, you don't want to be the one to offer solutions. You're only going to be the emotional facilitator of what's going on here. So as long as you're trying to facilitate the emotional venting and getting her to talk, you're going to win. But as soon as you step in and you try to offer solutions, then she's going to escalate and go like, he's not listening to me. I'm not feeling heard and understood because he's just trying to offer solutions and just shut me the fuck up. And that's the problem here. That's where a lot of guys run into these problems because men, they take big problems and we reduce them down into something very small and easy to handle. A nice bite-sized nugget. You know, if you ask your friends, hey, I can't go talk to this woman, he's going to be like, just be more confident, right? No, it's a bigger issue than that. If it was just as simple as that, you would have already done it. But he's just saying this because, right, he reduces it down to one word. He might even just say confidence. Like, what do you mean confidence? Just got to be confident, right? But for you, you know that that's not something, like if you could do that, you would have already done it. And so your friend is not helpful. Your friend is just shutting you down and he's kind of being a dick about it. And so, you obviously don't feel heard and understood in that scenario because, dude, I need some help. I need some solutions. And so then you would have to say, okay, well, please elaborate, right? Please elaborate. But for her, she's not going to say, please elaborate. She's going to be like, oh, he's a dick. She's like, It's not that simple. You can't just, and she's going to escalate these things because she doesn't feel heard and understood. And if it gets to the point where she doesn't feel she can talk to you about it, that's where the snippiness comes in. So like what I was saying before, with the snippiness and the nagging comes in, it's because of that. It's because she's starting to get some of that, I can't even talk to him. And then she just gets angry every time she looks at you because she can't compartmentalize it like you can. Like men can compartmentalize things very well, like I was saying earlier. Now remember, when you get her talking about these things, you're saying, okay, I'm the facilitator of her emotional venting. And you just want to get her talking. Remember that women solve their own problems by talking them out. And so you want to really start asking great questions to keep her going. So if she's having a problem with somebody at work, say, well, tell me about what's going on at work. And then she starts talking about it. And then you say, okay, well, what else? How else does that make you feel? And, okay, well, what do you think you should do about it? Do you think this person also notices it? And you want to ask these great questions to help facilitate it. So in a sense, you're kind of her coach in this way. And you want to encourage her in the path that you think is the way she should go, or she'll start coming up with solutions about the way she should go, and you need to encourage that. Now, when she does this, you just keep saying, hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Ask her great questions. At some point, her emotions will run out, and she'll say something like, I feel so much better. Thank you for listening. And that's when you know you've kind of done your job. Now, again, you haven't offered any solutions. You just facilitated her coming up with her own solutions. And encouraging her to do this and praising her where necessary. That's how you do it. That's how you get around an argument. Now, if it's because of something you're doing, you gotta realize that women are very intuitive. And so if you start lying to her or you start to downplay whatever's going on within you, she's gonna feel it and she's gonna really get you and she's not going to let it go. And this is why guys really fuck it up. Like say he's looking at some other woman or he's flirting with another woman in front of his girl and she's like, what's going on there? And he's like, oh, it's nothing, it's just another woman. And he tries to downplay it. She's like, no, that's bullshit. I know he's doing something there. There's obviously something that I'm not giving him that he needs in this relationship. And until you become clean about it and really put yourself in a vulnerable position, say, yes, there was this, I thought she had whatever, she had this energy about her and I really liked that. I haven't felt that kind of energy lately in our relationship. And it might be hurtful for her to hear these things. But these are the kind of things you got to be able to be free about. You got to speak unapologetically your truth. And she's not always going to like it. But that's what's necessary, right? Because if she can feel that you're going to be honest with her, then the trust can grow. But if you try to downplay it and you try to say like, well, it's nothing, baby. I don't care about that woman. I don't find her hot. You're the hottest one. She knows that. She intuitively knows that. And so she's going to keep picking at it, pushing and pushing and pushing until something happens, until she's like, well, he's never going to tell me. He's never going to say it. And then you'll also notice snippy and nagging behavior after a scenario like that. The only way you're going to get her open and to stop doing that and come back and be a sweet, awesome woman again is you have to resolve these things. And you got to be the leader. You got to be the one who's able to look at yourself with this humility. Women are really good at reflecting our own subconscious thinking. And this is one of the reasons why being in a relationship is one of the fastest ways to grow as an individual, a monogamous relationship, because you have to deal with these things. You can't just escape. And women are very intuitive and they will push a man to be his best if he's willing to go there. And they do this intuitively. They don't even always realize what it is that they're doing. But if you could recognize that what these challenges are that she's doing is really just reflecting back to you where you need to be more present, where you need to be the one to really take ownership of a weakness in your life, then it goes a lot more smoothly. It's not easy. It's not an easy path, but you grow tremendously quick. Now, if the argument has to do with something that she's got going on and she doesn't want to talk to you about it and she shuts down and closes off, just realize you can't always deal with a piss poor communicator. If she's locking down, then that means somewhere in this, she doesn't feel safe to really open up. And that may be part of what you facilitated, and that may have just come from her childhood or before you. But you got to do your best to power through the resistance. And so part of the rules of engagement here is you got to open up and you got to talk and you got to be honest. So when you're talking to her and she's like, well, I don't want to talk about it. Or she says, well, nothing's wrong. You got to call bullshit on that and say, no, I know something's wrong. You're being snippy at me and I don't appreciate that. What's going on? And she's gonna be like, nothing's going on. Obviously you have something to say, but you're not wanting to say it. And you have to push through this. You have to push through it. And they may even escalate at this point. They may escalate quite a bit if you're getting closer and closer to something that she doesn't want to talk to you. And in this case, I say it is okay to escalate it because she's blocking you. She's stonewalling you. And so you're going to have to escalate it. And you're like, no, you need to talk to me. You need to say what's going on. This relationship cannot continue if you continue to treat me this way. You keep blocking me out. You don't let me in. And some of the reasons that she may be blocking you is because she doesn't think like she can get through to you. So you got to be willing. In these things, you got to be willing to deal with something you might not want to hear. And you got to be strong enough to hear it, and you're not going to like it. And some of these times you may be talking to her and it's about you, and you need to sit down and listen to the feedback that you get. And women tend to have a way of giving it to you in a very raw way that you're not going to like. And that's part of her testing your resolve, testing if you can handle yourself, testing if you're strong enough to hear something that might be humiliating, but you need to deal with it. And the last thing I want to talk about is sometimes women don't always realize why they're having the reaction or the emotions that they're having. Sometimes they're like, I feel upset or I feel anxious and I don't know why. That's okay. Again, don't offer a solution for it, but you can say, well, do you want to talk about it a little bit? Sometimes when she gets to talking, she'll find out what it is. Or sometimes she will never find out what it is. And so you just help her just be with the emotion. Just stay there with her with it. Feel it with her. Just be there and be present with her. There's no reason to start labeling the emotions as bad or whatever. They simply are. They're just things that come and go with time. And a lot of times women don't know why they're feeling. Guys typically know why they're feeling a certain way. It's very linear. Like, that guy did this, so I'm pissed off. Or we haven't had sex for a while, so I'm really horny and I'm very frustrated that that's not happening because you are closed off emotionally. That's the kind of thing guys tend to know. But she'll say, well, I don't really know what it is. And just realize that's probably from a lot of stuff in the past where she's been shamed and not told that her emotions are valid. And so as a woman, they'll shut down and try to be more like a man and say, well, I shouldn't be thinking this or I shouldn't be feeling that. And they won't be able to, they'll be disconnected with how they're feeling. And just realize that that's where it's coming from. So again, when you go through this whole thing with teaching her how to get better about talking and venting her emotions, and you being the facilitator of this, these things will come up and she'll get more emotional intelligence in this way. So again, guys, just kind of a recap. Don't argue with her. You never argue with your woman. That's just the main thing here. Don't argue with her. You're simply the emotional facilitator of her solving her own problem. Don't feel responsible for it. Don't solve her problems. Just allow her to be. And get her talking. Coach her through it. And if she's snippy at you, if she's whatever, just realize that most likely this is because she hasn't felt heard and understood in some reason in her life. And make a container around your argument. In other words, if we're gonna argue, it needs to be healthy. And you're not gonna attack me, and you're not gonna be a dick, and neither will I, and we're gonna keep our cool. And you, as a man, will never lose his cool in an argument. So the only time you should ever escalate this is if she's stonewalling you. If she's stonewalling you emotionally, if that's not your thing, if you don't want to do it, I'm not going to encourage you to escalate it in that way. Like, some guys are just calm and they don't like the escalation. Okay, maybe that guy needs to be with a woman he doesn't have to do that with. Maybe he needs a woman who's more emotionally intelligent. But if that's not the case, if you're a stronger guy and you can do a little bit of the conflict, I say escalate it until she breaks down and opens up and tells you what's going on. You got to be the one who set the container to lead the relationship, and lead where it needs to go. That's all I got for you guys. I hope that's helpful. I know this was kind of a long video, but again, I hope that's helpful. And remember, in these arguments, to be unapologetically yourself.